Anyway, welcome back to Follow Through with LVB. I am here in Toronto at the GT20. This is almost like the GT20 Diaries. My first guest, I've got South African cricketers Rassie van Dussen and Dwaine Pretorius. Welcome to the Follow Through podcast, guys. How you feeling? Are you excited?
Yeah, I mean, I've watched your episodes on Instagram and on YouTube, so it's great to sit here.
Wow, you sound thrilled to be here.
Super excited.
Exactly. Dwaine, surely a bit more excited.
No, look, listen, I love this. This is very, what do you call it? I love the way you've set it up. It's been a bit rough, but we're here.
Yeah.
And we're going to start now and hopefully add some good value to the Follow Through podcast.
Good man. So we've been here for about 4 or 5 days, and I bring the mics, I bring the laptop, and everything with me. And I've always got this inspired idea that I'm going to record podcasts and I'm going to do it every morning and it's going to be great and I'm going to be able to put it out there. And I've literally been taking it around with me the last couple of years, and I've only really done it once or twice. So once I came here, I scouted some locations around the hotel. I saw this corner area in the bar, and now we're here. The reason why it's like a duo instead of individual podcasts is that for the last few mornings, Rassie and I, and Jason Berendoff and Dwaine, you've been there, David Visa, a few guys, we've just been having some long breakfasts with a lot of coffees, solving a lot of world problems, and it's just a great opportunity now to get it on tape. So hopefully we can be as honest and as but
Is this rated parental garden?
This is a PG version.
Okay. Dwaine.
But we can exactly. But no, it's cool. But it's going to be pretty freestyle. Normally, most of my podcasts have been like the journey. So we start from the start. We might do something similar. Talk about your childhood, how you got into cricket, and then we'll talk about anything along the kind of, the cricketing brief, from mental skills to technical stuff to setbacks to high moments to family, whatever. That's pretty much the gist. So
let's get cracking.
Dwaine
loves this stuff. He loves like the cricket chat.
I love a cricket chat.
Yeah.
I don't mind a cricket chat. And Rassie as well, don't worry.
Yeah. I enjoy giving input, but yeah, Dwaine and I we've come a long way together. We've had many cricket chats, not as formal as this probably, but yeah, I think it's going to be a good show.
Well, let's start with that. When did you first you're similar age? Both?
Same age.
So when did you first come up against each other? And then tell us about your I guess, friendship, or is it just the fact that you're cricket acquaintances?
Can I tell that story of the first time I remember playing against you?
When you smoked me in pots, or
no.
Speaking about
before
the time
that.
You smoked me in under
19 though. So under 19, provincial week, we play against Northwest. I played for Northerns. He played for Northwest, and this guy rocks up. Did you have a red BMW or?
Yes, I had a car. Yes,
he had a car. Firstly,
right.
And he had this massive like mohawk. Was it another color as well?
Yes, probably like burgundy.
Some sense in a rebellious.
Like a mohawk.
Yeah.
In a different color. I can't remember the color. The hairstyle itself was already quite shocking. And he's this tall, fast, but he was still bowling pretty well. He probably bowling the same pace. But for us at that stage, it was quick.
Yeah.
No.
I don't know, champ. I've got no clue. I just know about my hair. I don't know how fast I was bowling, and I was bowling.
So this tall guy bowls gas. We're like, who is this guy? At school level, basically, with this mohawk. And yeah, that's the first time I remember ever seeing or coming up against Dwaine.
Was it so? Because school cricket is quite big. There's certain schools in South Africa that you go to play the rugby and cricket. Are there like other schools that are like the rebellious schools? Did you go to that school where you're a little bit of like a rogue character?
I was
out of nowhere.
Not in the school that you play cricket in at all. I grew up in Rustenburg, so small town, small school, and I had a bit of a funny streak. We still joke about it today. I'm probably had a few hair colors in my life, but I think after Ray Jennings came hard at me, I think that's where my rebellious streak stopped in cricket, and I started doing it the right way.
Yeah.
But at least Rassie can remember me from the young age. I can't necessarily remember playing against him, but
I wasn't great.
Yeah. But at least I made an impact on him.
Well, South African 19s, you both played South African under 19s?
Did you actually play? I was in the squad. I never played.
Yeah, I played. I was in the under 19 World Cup squad. Then I did my knee and I got my first knee operation. And yeah, didn't play.
That's a whole story in itself.
Missed out on the World Cup.
Just that one, or just the knee throughout the years?
No, knee throughout the years, right one. Yeah, there's a good story there for another day. But
yeah,
at the end of the day, I'm not supposed to be here now. So they said I won't be able to play cricket. But yeah, I proved them wrong, and here we are.
Okay. Oh, I like that one. I want to circle back to that some point. At some point, but Rassie and I first met each other 2012. I went over to the Netherlands to play a club season. A guy, Cameron Borges, and I were living together, so there was 3 overseas. Well, I was kind of Dutch already, but I was born in New Zealand, so I felt like an overseas at the time. But Cameron and I were flatting together, and then there was this other South African guy at the club, and he was just kind of training by himself. He'd do some fitness things, but then Cameron and I were quite buddy, and already had a few personal jokes. And there's a certain photo that I send Rassie every year. The first few months wasn't too flash for Rassie, and there was one particular game where he gets out, and instead of walking towards the changing room, he walks to the other side of the field, and he's just sitting in the stadium in the stands by himself, and it's him taking the pads off, just his head down. And I took this long shot photo, and every year I just kind of send it to him just as a reminder of just to keep him grounded. But after a couple of months, I actually started talking to him and asked
months,
yeah,
2 months.
I reckon
that's horrible, but
yeah,
I reckon it was about a month that I said, I might as well ask him more than, hey, how are you? And then suddenly we became best friends. We were going to the beach. We were riding bikes all over the place.
Yeah, it was quite romantic.
Yeah, what are we doing today?
Yeah.
And then that's how the friendship kind of started.
Yeah.
Had a big lull for a while. We didn't really bump into each other for a while. And then probably pretty much this time last year.
At GT20, yeah.
At GT20, it rekindled. And now our wives are about to meet each other in a couple of days.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a crucial moment.
Very big moment.
This is huge.
Yeah.
And I feel a little bit worried because I've kind of told Alitza, look, Lara's coming in a couple of days.
And just to give context, Lara from that time.
True.
Because Lara came to visit in Holland, yeah.
Exactly. So we got on really well.
Yeah.
And there's a bit of a tripod kind of going on. And now that Alitza's into this is a crucial moment. And if they don't become fast friends, this could be interesting.
This could be the last time you're seeing us together.
Well, exactly.
Well, maybe. But I've got a funny feeling they're going to be okay. They're both into health and fitness. They're both active. They're going to want to explore and go. We'll be fun.
We'll be fun.
Your next podcast can be them.
Couples podcast. Or just them.
Just them.
Just them. Fair enough. But Dwaine, speaking of partners, you married, children. How long have they? Do they come along to these tournaments? Do they stay home? What's the play as being a T20 mercenary now that you?
Yeah, so I am married. June was 10 years, and then my boyki is 7 years old. But yeah, he's just started school, so it's a bit difficult for them to travel everywhere. But when it lines up with school holidays and stuff like that, we definitely try and work things out. But yeah, he's had a few trips. I think my boy has probably visited 5 or 6 countries already. He really loves the game, loves being part of the boys. He's been to a World Cup or 2, so he really enjoys the game, loves it. Yeah, and he's trying to coach me now at the moment. Trying to give me some advice. Abuses me when I bowl a wide, abuses me when I can't hit sixes. So it's a fun time in the house at the moment. But yeah, really, really cool having them a part of the whole journey.
It's interesting. You were talking at breakfast this morning around managing family life. So how do you guys go about it in terms of making sure that you're not away too long, or which tournaments do you bring them along? How do you keep in touch? How do you kind of keep that family unit buzzing, I guess?
So basic rule, and that's just a very simple one. But I don't really care in which time zone I am. They always phone me in the mornings, and they always phone me when Unlook gets picked up at school, and then when they go to bed. So it doesn't matter if I'm sleeping, they phone me awake. Otherwise, you quickly slip away, especially if you're like in Canada or places where the time difference is quite significant, then you can quickly lose touch. But yeah, we're a really tight-knit thing. We really enjoy family life. Everything we do together. So that helps a lot. And also when I get back home, I don't necessarily go out to play golf or whatever. I then take over, pick my son up from school, drop him off. I'm really present when I'm home. And then when I'm not there, it's a bit easier than to just switch off and then focus on the game. And then being a bit of a mercenary, not contracted to a certain franchise at the moment, really helps me then to actually free up a bit more time and not necessarily when I'm back home, I can structure my own training sessions. I can plan my own program. There's no one telling me what to do, which times. So when the family needs me, I'm available. And then I just make sure that from a cricketing point of view, I get everything done that I need. So that really helps a lot. But yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Being 35 now, you've got a bit more perspective of that. Was there a time where maybe cricket wasn't going too well, or your injuries, and you had a tough lesson around, well, I'm actually not super present with my family right now, I'm too caught up? Was there a time in your mid-20s or late 20s that it wasn't going well?
Well, cricket's up and down, right? So you always have I would say, like, if you have like 12 months of cricket, 6 months are probably not going to go well. The other 6 will go well, and it's probably going to be broken up. So, no, I've always tried to like really separate it. And I've really tried to make sure that cricket's not a burden on my family. It's just part of family life, and I've been fortunate enough to be able to switch off when I get back home, or switch off when I get back into the hotel room, and make sure that whatever happens on the field doesn't necessarily bother me. If it's me playing, not playing, if it's me performing, not performing, always try and stay as consistent as possible. And the perspective and family really helped a lot with that, because I'm quite an overthinker. So I'll think a lot about the game, and if it's a bad one, I would probably go back into the hotel and try and solve a problem and see what's going on, what's happening. But the family actually forced me to not be that type of player anymore. So they actually really had a massive impact in my game in a good way. Just when I get into the hotel room, or when I get back home, switch off from the game, that's done. Try and put it in the past, and the next game you try and move on. So that's been a really awesome thing. And also, like, having a kid, just the perspective it brings. Like, there's so much more important things in life than just doing well in a game or in cricket. And even if I've gone for 50 or gotten out for a duck, my son, he would abuse me a bit, but he would still love me, whatever it is. So he's like always just smiling and happy to be a part of the whole journey. And that perspective really like shifted all the other stuff and took a lot of pressure off me. So I'm really thankful for my family and for all their support. And yeah, I mean, it's tough for them. So spending so much time away, it's not always easy, and they keep supporting me in my dream. So very thankful for that.
Well, that's awesome to hear, because, and you hear that a lot around when a player has a kid, how they suddenly free them up and their perspective changes. One of the tough things, I was talking to one of my teammates yesterday, and he's brought his wife along, and we were discussing around how, as a cricketer or as a professional sportsman, you've got this little 15-year kind of space where you've got to make the most of your career. And quite often it can be a selfish pursuit, because your career kind of dictates the partner's career. And sometimes, because we're away a lot, their career is either dictated with where they are, and how do they kind of pursue their career without being apart for too long. So for you, Rassie, how have you and Lara gone about being able to make sure that she's still pursuing what she wants to do, but also making sure you're not apart for too long?
Yeah, it is tough. I think I'm fortunate in the sense that Lara, she grew up with cricket. She was a scorer. So she from the start, she understood what it's about, and it was easy for her to comprehend what my goals and my dreams are and how that probably looks. But the tough thing is that, it's exactly like you say, like someone's career probably must take preference, and it's difficult to balance that, because if you don't do that, your schedules just don't line up. There were years that we were away probably 10 months of the year playing easily. And then even the 2 months at home is not just at home. It's either you're playing domestic cricket or whatever. So Laura, being a high school teacher, we had to take a decision a few years ago for her to put that on the back burner, for her to be able to travel, come see the world, because the opportunities there. That's a fortunate thing of us doing what we do. They in a sense have an opportunity to see the world as well on the back of us. But yeah, there are times where it is tough, and you got to appreciate that everyone has their own goals and dreams and interests and loves and hobbies. In Laura's case, she loves being a teacher, a high school math teacher. It's like it really gets her up in the morning, and she loves it. But having to put that aside is tough sometimes. But I think you have a limited time. We have a limited time. It's not going to be forever, and you hope that in that time you can maximize to an extent that whether it's yourself or your partner can work after cricket because you want to work, not because you have to work.
Yeah, and now with the nature of cricket is that you can be, and Dwaine, you know this too well in the last few years of being a T20 kind of mercenary and going here, there and everywhere, is that 15 years ago, career is probably by 34, 35, it's probably going, okay, I've had a good career, it's been great, I'll pursue my next path, whether it be coaching, media, in the office, wherever. But now the opportunities are so great, and there's so many opportunities. And what I'm finding is that why would you want to cut this short and not play? And Jimmy Anderson's a great example of how fit he is at 41, 42. Why can't we play until we're early 40s if we're still obviously doing well? But for you, how long do you think you can kind of keep going in this world?
I think obviously the way that I'm doing it now, you are your own boss, basically. So managing your body, I think, is super important, but having the self-discipline to make sure you're doing the right things the whole time, that's where the tricky part comes in. I think that's the only question mark and the danger thing. If you're someone that's struggling with a bit of structure and discipline and getting to the gym and it's an issue for you, this is going to be a tough gig to do and to make sure that you maintain, because all the responsibility is on yourself, and that's the one part. And the other part's obviously performance. Performance is unfortunately in cricket something you cannot control. You might do everything you did the previous time when you performed well, and the performances just don't go your way. So for me, I want to do this as long as possible. I'll be smart in the way I structure my programs and make sure that my body is always in the best position. Sometimes when you're fully contracted, you don't necessarily have those off window periods where you can rebuild your body, and especially from a bowling point of view, like strength and fitness and stuff like that, because you're always on the park. And you're always just doing rehab or quick priming session or something like that. So when you actually do it the way I do it now, you can always make sure there's a 4-week block for those little things to take place. And I think that's what happened with Jimmy, right? Jimmy only played Test cricket, but he had a lot of blocks where you could rebuild his body when guys were playing one-day stuff and T20 stuff. And in that, there's a bit of a recipe that anyone can follow and say, okay, well, you can't have everything. If you want to play till 40, you can't be playing all 3 formats. Okay, and that's what the decision I made. I love 4-day cricket. 4-day cricket is one of my favorite formats. It's probably one of my best formats. I bowl quite well. They bat quite well. It just allows me to play the game that I like playing. But it's not necessarily going to take care of my family going forward, and it's not something that I'll be able to do till 40. So doing this, I want to do it as long as possible, and the only thing that'll stop me from doing that, I don't think it's my body. I'll make sure that I check those boxes, but it'll be performance. And then how do you get the best out of your body in terms of performance and ability to make sure that you can do this day in, day out, and go on these tours. So I think that's the biggest thing. So for easy answer, as long as possible, with all the Masters leagues around there now, there's a lot of real opportunities for players to really play for as long as they keep themselves on the park. And the only way you do that, self-discipline, making sure that you're doing the right things, trying to eat well, that's really tough. The thing, like,
especially,
it's good. Food's so good. Sometimes you go to the subcontinent, you're a bit dodgy about salads and the way to eat healthy there, so you stay away from it. You go more carby. So just like having a bit of a recipe or someone to guide you through that process, I think it makes it possible for all of us, sitting to play till 40 if we can keep up the performances.
Yeah, it is. It's does the body go? Does the mind go? Does an opportunity pop up?
I think it's a combination and it's largely, I think, dependent on what else is going on in your life outside of cricket. I mean, Dwaine and I, having spent all this time together, we both have an interest in business, for example, so I think when we do stop, the transition would be probably easier than for someone that is just fully into cricket. I mean, we've seen guys that sort of play for long because they feel they have to play for long. And I think the distinction to make is, okay, you play because you want to play. We're in a privileged, or you hope that you're in a privileged position to do that, or you say, okay, this is what I'm going to transition into after playing, and that is sort of set up. So yeah, I think it's largely dependent. I mean, I don't have kids yet, but I can imagine when you have children, it becomes so much harder to spend time away, especially when they're young. And that's what I've seen with Dwaine. Like, especially like when Hanlu was young, the amount of time we traveled, and every time, you see the tears of the kids at the airport, because they don't understand why you have to leave again. So I can imagine that's tough. So yeah, I think it's a combination of all those things.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. Probably look at AB's career, and AB probably could have played for another 3, 4, 5 years and done really well. I mean, he's one of the best ever. But I guess, and I don't know, I haven't spoken to him about it, but I guess he made that decision like, you know what, family is a bit more important now. I'm going to step back and do the odd thing, maybe do a bit of commentary or whatever it is, but still be involved with the game. But I mean, I'm sure that made a massive impact on his decision. So yeah, I mean, I would like to play this for as long as possible. And the fact that I'm not fully contracted with anyone telling me what to do when I'm home is like huge, because there I can say, okay, well, what does my family need? And how does my program now fit into family life, and not how does my family again fit into the other stuff?
Yeah.
So that's what makes it a bit tricky when you contracted full time with someone, and because now you've got a boss, and that boss is actually letting you go on these leagues. When you come back, he wants his pound of flesh. So for me, I just thought like it's not a great family decision, and that's why we ultimately made the decision.
And more guys are making that decision now. You look at New Zealand, Kane, Lockie, Trent, Colin de Grom home. There's a number of guys who are turning down contracts to have that freedom, to be able to maximize the opportunities. And that'd be the same for me. That's the dream, is to be able to be your own boss, have the freedom to be able to make a family decision, which is great. You spoke about things outside of the cricket, and career transitioning is one of my kind of hot topics. We are filmed here by my social media, Surrey Jaguars extraordinaires, and if we zoom in to Rassie's hat right now, he's actually camera one,
camera 3.
He's actually a very smart guy, because he's got his coffee business, Abantu, and he knows that this is a massive podcast, so he knows that this is just a way to get his brand out there. But rewind a little bit and talk to me how that started, and how is it growing since then?
Yeah, well, it started 2020 just after lockdown, but I think the relevant relevant thing is that, like I said, Dwaine and I have business interests, and the amount of times that we've discussed business ideas and opportunities and stuff, and him saying to me, nah, that's not going to work. Or me saying to him, nah, I see what you're saying, but no. I think you underestimate the impact that has, because like for us two, for example, you know us. You don't know him that well, but we're pretty straight talking. So when it comes to cricket, when it comes to life, business, whatever it is, like if I talk to him and he asks me a question, I'm going to be honest with him. And it's the same way going this way. And I think that's why over the years we've sort of played in the same teams the whole time, moved up together, and now the last 2 years it's been leagues and that. But coming back to business, this is I've wanted to do this for very long. I love coffee, like a lot of people do, and the coffee industry is a very it's a very romantic type of thing. Oh, I want my own coffee shop. And I try to look at it in a bit of a different way. Not trying to see, not minimizing my outlay, but saying what's a better way than to open up a big coffee shop, and then have to make it work. So we started very small in a container type of structure, pick up and go in 2020, just after hard lockdown. Abantu Coffee, as you can see,
right there, top of the head.
Started with one shop, and really, it's myself and a partner, Chris, which is my one of my best friends back home. Literally didn't know what we were doing. Just said, I think there's opportunity here, because, and I always try to think of in any business that I do is what would I want out of it, and what would I support, and what would I spend my money on, and how would it look, and how would it feel and operate. So from the outset, sort of having that mindset of, okay, I think there's an opportunity here. If there was a place here for good coffee, pick up and go, you can sit for 5 or 10 minutes, use the Wi-Fi, or you can just get on your way somewhere. Would I do that? And I was like, yeah, okay, so how would that look? And we started building it from there. Got people in, baristas that we got to know through other coffee shops, and went to happy at the places that they were working at. And especially in South Africa, it's in the industry, it's easy to, for a lack of a better term, exploit service workers, because it's like, okay, I'll pay you this much, and then if it's not a fair amount, it'll just be, okay, well, then someone else will do it, because there's a lot of labor available in South Africa. And so from that point of view, we try to think of how can we be different. So identified people that can help us with that. Say to them, listen, we're going to pay you a fair amount, even actually way above industry standard, but we're leaning on you to basically tell us how to run a coffee shop. So we'll do the investment, we'll do the marketing, we'll do all that other stuff that we know about, and we can do. But in terms of what do we need to make a coffee? All right, we need a machine, we need a grinder, we need beans, we need a recipe, we need good baristas, we need service, we need point of sale, we need all of that. So relied on them to tell us how to do it. Started with one shop, and we're sitting at 9 shops now.
Wow.
In Pretoria. It's going pretty well.
Yeah.
Like, we still, as we grow, you take these steps and you don't know whether you take one step forward, you don't know where the second step or third step is going to be, but I mean, you roll with the punches and you learn as you go. So we started it basically to make a difference in other people's lives. So we got about 30 people working with us now. We didn't say for us, working with us now. That's people that I would like to think whose lives have changed in the last few years for the better, giving opportunities, allowing them to build their lives. We also are operating hours, for example. Sorry, I'm jumping all over the place, but
it's left, right, and center. I like it.
Hours are very, I want to say, normal. We're not trying to squeeze every last bit of profit out of this operation. So our shops close at 4:00 in the afternoon, for example, for a reason that people must have their lives outside of work as well. On weekends, we are open, but we're not open for a whole lot. It's for the morning run, basically, and then after that, people can do what they want. So we try and make it really fair and give a platform to someone that a lot of our people are studying. A lot of them have their own side little businesses. And I think that communication out there to people in the community, they actually start to understand what you're about as a brand, why you why we can afford to have our prices lower, because our main thing is not the bottom line. Our main thing is to offer good coffee, great service to anyone. So we have security guards, we have lawyers, we have plumbers, we have everyone can afford our coffee. And that's what we want to do. And if you get that messaging out there, people are like, you know what, this is why I'll support this brand and not another brand who you can see is just trying to squeeze every last drop out of their operation. Yeah. So it's been a cool journey.
Wow. And so every cup of coffee, there's a bit more meaning, there's fulfillment in that each sip.
Well, I think that's important for me in business. I'm not sitting here and saying that I know a lot about business, but I think once you run a business, not just from a financial point of view, it's, I mean, how many coffee shops are there out there? In South Africa, there's a decent coffee culture. You can get it. Well, I often say to my people, you can get an average cup of coffee anyway, but why would people want to come here? And that's sort of subliminal messaging and subconscious messaging. You know what? That's why I'm going to go there, because they actually treat their people like people.
Yeah.
That's why I'm going to go there, because that guy who works there now, 2 years ago, he couldn't afford to live in a flat. Now look at him now.
Yeah.
Now he's studied. He's got a degree. We offer paid study leave. We offer paid maternity leave. Which is in the industry, if you know the South African economic situation, or it's unheard of. You know, so we try and offer all those things, and I think that's why the brand has been supported well, and we continue to grow, I think.
Yeah, it's awesome, because even when you started. And then just seeing you talking now and how you got to 9 coffee shops. I didn't realize it was 9, which is amazing. I have to talk to you after this, and maybe Wellington we can open a new one. But Dwaine, that's Rassie's side of the business. How have you gone about, I guess, life outside of cricket, and what direction are you heading towards?
That's still a bit uncertain. I've had a few businesses myself, but making interesting decisions, some of them not necessarily working, trying the franchise model, realizing, okay, that's not all it's cut out to be, trying get a partner, invest in their idea, let's see if they can run it, great idea, no, it doesn't necessarily work out. So I think what really is important, and I always tell Russ this, he's really special thing that made his business work. First of all, they tried a few, and that's what I always enjoyed about him. He started off with like a cap business, doing like customized caps, and then they did gin at a stage. So he's always been exploring. So it's really cool, and then he found now something that works, and which is the coffee, and which they really enjoy. And I'm sure he's still going to explore a few more other options after that. But I've always been trying to explore. I think Rassie is probably a bit more risk adverse than myself. I've taken a few more bigger risks than him, where he's always thinking risk first. What can you lose? My side, everything else, I'm quite T-Rexy. Like, I don't like spending too much money on stuff, but I don't mind taking business risks. But yeah, obviously I haven't necessarily found that thing. But coming back to my point, where Rassie is really, really important, is having that one friend that you really, really trust, and that is willing to go out of his way to make or buy into your vision, and then trying to make that a reality. I think that's really important for any cricketer. If they have a friend outside cricket and they want to go into business, I think that's really important, because it doesn't matter really what investment you make. You need guys to probably be there. Make sure you can trust that guy. Listen, this needs to get done. Please do this. Please do that. Please do this. And Rassie's been really fortunate to having that guy, and I think he's been really instrumental to their success. And then Rassie's vision about it, it's always been really cool. He mentioned it, but he always put his staff first. I remember from the start, that is what he said he's going to do. Bottom line is, not everything is probably 20% cheaper than any other coffee in South Africa that I know of. But it doesn't take away from the quality. So there's a lot of lessons that I learn from how he's built his business. So yeah, but still exploring for myself. I'm not really sure where it's going to end up. But yeah. just looking for the next opportunity, trying to upskill myself, making sure that I'm in a position to make business opportunities. Unfortunately, in South Africa, your working opportunities after cricket is very limited, and especially if you want to earn a certain amount of cash, you either need 5 to 10 years of experience in corporate, or you're going to have to work for yourself. And that's the reality. It's not something you need to feel sorry about. It's just, that's the problems. The solution is to build something for yourself. So always exploring, always upskilling, and that's the only thing that I can do now. So yeah, mine is not as certain as Rassie's yet, but we'll see what the solutions are.
Yeah, well, it's one of the challenges as a cricketer, as a sports person, to set yourself up life after cricket. This is like it started as a bit of an experiment, but it's kind of something that I was just telling Dwaine at the start around the follow through brand is a podcast, but hopefully one day it could be helping people follow through on what they want to do, and starting a coffee business, starting losing weight, could be traveling the world, whatever it is. It could be something that they've always wanted to do, but they just need to follow through with. And that's the part. You just need to start something and see where step 2 or 3 or 4 goes to.
I think that's a big thing is in entrepreneurship, let's call it that. Just like oftentimes I feel like people they think they can't do it, and then you have to have everything figured out. And I'll sit here today and say we had nothing figured out. Maybe we were lucky. I don't know. And we're sitting now with a business that's doing really well. But I think the lesson is we just started and sort of went into it, and you figure it out along the way.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But I think the big key to that is the way we do it now. We're not dependent on that income.
Yeah.
So you're allowed to take your time.
Yeah.
Nothing rushes you. Nothing tells tomorrow I need to pay a mortgage or tomorrow I need to pay school fees. So I think in that, the lesson is when you in cricket and you realize, listen, it's getting towards the end of my career, maybe 5, maybe 6, maybe 2. Then start looking for that opportunities. Look and build something like yourself with the Follow Through podcast. You don't know what could happen, but you've started it, right? You've started and it's organically growing like where you want it to be. Russ was in a position where he could, in his mind, build something that is actually more important than just bottom line. Why? He didn't need the bottom line. And then now as scalability is building up, the bottom line is it's making more sense.
Yeah.
It's making more sense, right? But because he was in a position to let it organically grow, that helps a lot. And also whoever the guy is that is in charge on the other side, there's always going to be the guy that's running it for you. That pressure on that guy is so much less, because again, it's not like, yes, we need this to pay this. And Rassie's model is brilliant to like build slow steps, because he doesn't go into retail stores, which is super expensive, which puts a lot of pressure on the business model or on the partner or on the people working there. Or that, I mean, if you go into a retail store, they tell you open from 6 till 8 and that's it. So that's what I respect from Rassie. He's done it differently, and he's shown there's a different way of doing things. But yeah, that's a big thing. Being not reliant on that while you have an income just allows you to learn the lessons. Otherwise, you panic and you make bad decisions. So a lot of cricketers don't do anything in the last 2 or 3 years. They might go study or whatever, and then oh shit. No, sorry.
Yeah.
Now I need income. Oh, where's my opportunity? Okay. I've thrown a lot of money behind this business idea, crash. Oh,
yeah,
my money gone.
Yeah.
Because he hasn't like thought of what the options are.
Yeah.
Long time before he really needed it. And I think that's the biggest key.
That's a great point, because, you know, we talk about not getting the work experience and not being able to have that 5 years in a certain industry to get that job straight after. But you're right. We've got this luxury of still earning on at what our profession is, to then be able to set something up. But you need partners, you need teammates, you need mentors and coaches. And we've spoken about our families and our partners. Now spoken about the way you go about business. You guys have had a number of coaches. You've been in a number of teams. You've been all around the world playing cricket. You've obviously both played for South Africa at World Cups. High-performing teams, leaders, coaches, captains. what's some teams that you've been with where it's just worked so well, and what's some of the keys that worked really well? And then the opposite, what are the teams that you've been in where it hasn't worked well?
I think
without but you can more talk in general terms without naming this guy was the worst coach in the world. His number is 0270.
I think in general, whenever responsibility is given by a management team, and you have the right individuals in the team that knows how to handle that responsibility and that professionalism, that's a good recipe for success. Probably the worst teams I've been in are teams where it's overcoached, overstructured, being I want to say almost handled like you don't really know what you're doing, and this is what you need to do. And I'm the coach, and I'm telling you this is how it's going to be, without trusting. And I mean, Dwaine has probably heard me say the word trust about 1 million times in his life. For me, trust is the biggest thing in a team, between players and between the staff. And when you have that trust, when a coach comes to me and say, listen, I think this and this, but you're the guy in the middle. You've got experience. You've got a reference of how to be successful in these conditions against this team, in this situation, whatever it might be. I trust you to make the call. This is my input, but I trust you to make the call. So, from a batting point of view, I'm seeing this, but whatever you feel at the end of the day, you can go with this, but I'm going to tell you the feedback that I'm seeing, or the critique that I'm seeing. So that's the biggest thing for me.
How do you build that trust with a coach or a player?
I think it starts from the beginning. So a first impression type thing is, if a coach comes to you and says straight off the bat, listen, you need to change this, you need to change this. And I've had that in a few teams. You immediately feel like, well, why am I here? If you immediately feel like he doesn't think your ability or technique or whatever it is good enough. Whereas if a coach comes and says, and probably the best batting coach I've had, and Dwaine's had him as well, Justin Salmons, I never knew him from before he started coaching at the Lions back in Johannesburg, our domestic team, or used to be our domestic team. But he came and said, okay, I've studied your game. I've seen this is what you do when you play well. I want to work with that. So you're really good here, you're really good here, you're really good here. I think maybe there's an opportunity for you to work on that, or to work on that. But I'm not going to take my preconceived ideas and shove it upon you. I'm going to work with what you have, and then we're going to improve that and build around that. And that's the biggest principle from an individual coach, I think.
That's awesome. That's the fact that he's come to you and he's like, you're great at this. I've seen you do this. I saw that innings in Cape Town when you played this, and you played this shot over cover. And it's like, okay, well, he's actually seen me. Oh, exactly. I saw you in England in 2017, and the way you played, I don't know, Mitch Satner down the ground, and just showed that you had the ability. I know that people talk about that, whatever it is. It's like, wow, they've actually gone over and above, and they're not just meeting you for the first time and going, okay, you're this.
Because the opposite is, and which I've had also, is guys coming and saying, you must do this and you must do that. And then the immediate response is, well, if you had any reference of my game in the last few years, is that that I have done that, and I did try that, and it didn't work.
Yeah.
So, so I've had that before, and immediately you just think like, well, this guy's just trying to impose his ideas on me, what he thinks will work for me. And that's not a recipe for a good environment, I think.
So trust. Dwaine, what's some of what's your key element, I guess, when it comes to coaches, teams, team culture?
Jeepers, I think it's a very difficult one, because I think depending on what format and how you coach and what your job is, you're going to be different. So for instance, what I mean by that is if you have a franchise team or international team and you're the coach for the next 2-3 years and you're going to have this squad of players with you for a 3-year period, you're probably going to say there's different keys to that than there is coaching T20 gigs, right? So, I mean, in the South African environment, what I really loved a lot was when you're in there, there's like a bit of a culture. There's things that you do. There's things you build on. It's a holistic view of how to coach, right? Like trust. But when you're playing a T20 comp, as a coach, there's no chance to build that trust. That trust needs to automatically be given. And the easiest way for a coach to get that from the big players is like Rassie has said, listen, go out, play your game. And the coach's job, in my opinion, is to just make sure his players in the T20 league are super happy. They're getting everything they need. And then you hope all your guys are in form. You're not going to make a huge difference in terms of coaching. Maybe there's a few strategy things. Maybe there's a few team composition things that you can have a thing. But with one of the teams that I've been involved with is Chennai, and I really felt like what they do really well is like making sure guys are happy, treating each guy as a human and communicating really well. This is where you fit into our plans. This is what we're expecting from you. Okay, and then from the bat, that's great. But again, IPL is like 10 weeks long. So there's so much time. Okay, so you can actually have time to build a bit of a culture, build a bit of a team environment. But yeah, GT20, 17 days. Yeah. So as a coach, it's basically impossible to try and get that going. The only thing you can do is to keep guys happy. But for me, in terms of a longer viewpoint and not necessarily T20 cricket, because I think, it's tough to coach that. I don't think there's any rules except making sure your guys are happy, making sure your guys feel valued. That's the two things there. But for a longer format or longer time frame that you have with your team, I think trust is brilliant. I think communication is really good. So myself, I've always been like on the fringe of playing, not playing, playing, not playing. And what I've really felt the best coaches for me was the ones that really just communicated clearly and told me clearly where I am in the pecking order, what I need to do to play. But the most important thing there to not break the trust is when a coach says something, stick to that. Because I think some coaches, just to like escape from the tough chats, they tell you a few things, you go out and you go do those few things, and then sometimes they don't deliver or follow through. No. So it's really important from a coaching point of view that if you can get that right, it's good. And then also, I think like Rassie's point, I mean, I remember him changing his technique I'm not sure if it was his first test series, but it was my first test series involved. But it's because of the coach that actually told him that. And the pedigree he had, which was Jacque Kallis, told him to be a bit taller instead of being so crouched. And ever since then, Rassie has used that. But Rassie didn't see it from a bad point of view because it's Jacque Kallis. Like, shit, okay, this guy knows batting. Okay, I think I can learn quite a bit from him. But just making sure that as a coach's point of view that it's an open conversation. And I think the way Jacque always like brought it over was like, it's a conversation. It's not you do this, I'm the coach, that is what I want. It's more like, listen, Russ, what do you think of this? And that's what I keep saying it, but Mark Boucher made like a huge impact in my T20 career. I mean, Rassie will tell you, at the start of my T20 career, I wasn't necessarily a bowler. I was more like a batting all-rounder, maybe doing the fill-in overs here or there. I'm a lack of pace to hit, so if your plans are not great and your execution isn't great, you're going to get smoked. So when Bouch just told me, like, listen, stop trying to be a KG. Stop trying to be a Anrich Nortje. You're not that type of bowler. Your wickets will come by frustrating the guys. In a bowling lineup, they're probably going to target you, so don't let them be able to target you. Stop getting hit for boundaries and your whole career will change. And it did. But if I didn't trust him, and I didn't necessarily need to trust him there. He wasn't a bowler, okay? He wasn't a bowling all-rounder, but because of the way he treated me, communicated well with me, I trusted that and I brought that into my game, and it's like it completely transformed my T20 bowling just by one conversation, and that conversation was 2 minutes long. And I bought into that because I knew he's like going, you know what, you can be someone else. You don't have to be like anyone else. And that's like really changed my way. Just the communication, because I had that respect for him, because he always communicated really well with me. He always followed through with what he said. He's a really tough guy, so when he's going to tell you something, it's probably the truth, and he's not like running around corners. And then again, like plain words, but he followed through on whatever he said. Whatever he said to me, that really counted.
I love this, Dwaine. You are plugging the hell out of this podcast, which is fantastic. That's some of the best players to ever play the game giving advice. Something I'm finding interesting is that can a non-playing or a non-international player, can they be a good coach? Can they coach the best? Because we always, yes. So this is the question, is that you've probably been in teams where the coach or assistant coach hasn't necessarily played international cricket, or they've only played a handful of first class games, and they haven't been to where you have been, and now they're in a position of coaching you. And I find this quite interesting, because big international names, they get these coaching gigs, straight off the bat. Guys who haven't played, they have to go through this long journey of making it to the top, and it must be frustrating as anything when they just see these international guys, boom, get an IPL gig or an international gig, and they've been coaching for 20 years or 25 years, and they've done down at the club nets, and they've thrown in the cold to a random clubby and all those things. How does someone like that, and we talked about trust, but what have you experienced a coach like that has done really well in or helped your career, where they haven't necessarily played international cricket, and that instant respect? Because I've seen Jacque Kallis bat, so he probably knows what he's talking about. Have you had that experience with a coach?
Yeah, so the guy I mentioned, Justin Salmons, he is exactly that. He never played high level cricket, but I mean, I've elaborated on how his approach is. Around taking what you have and working from there, and giving observations, and being really honest about what he's seeing, what you can't always see or feel yourself. The point that Dwaine made, that story of Jacque Kallis, it's the big thing I think there is communication, because it was literally a case of, at that stage, I had 2 really good years in red ball cricket, finally earned a call up into the test squad, and it was 2 or 3 days before my test debut. He came to me and he said, "Listen, I've been looking at you, and I think we need to make a change."
Wow.
So now I'm thinking, now you
and if you know Rassie, if you know Rassie, he's probably thinking,
now I'm thinking, like, okay, this has worked for me.
Yeah.
But I think what I maybe didn't say earlier is, not saying that a coach mustn't challenge you, because Boucher was probably one of the best coaches in that sense that I've ever had. He always challenged us. He the type of character is, I think it resonates with the South African mindset. He was always challenging us, and in that sense, Jacque Kallis told me, "This is what I think you must do. You must be a bit more upright in your stance." And these are the reasons for it, because Test cricket largely goes around how, obviously, technique and that, temperament, but around how you play the short ball. And I just think if you're in this position, I think you're going to struggle with the short ball, because you're so low. You're going to have to always come up with it, or you're just going to have to pack it away. And at that stage, the short ball was quite a good option for me. So the communication around that, challenging me and saying, these are the reasons that I'm saying that, meant that I could trust that straight away. And of course it had helped that it was Jacque Kallis. You can't take that away, coming to your point. So immediately I decided, and it was a short chat, much like his with Boucher. It was like, okay, I'm buying in because I see your reason, I see what you're saying. And I can comprehend that.
And he scored 12,000 test runs or whatever it is.
So
but coming back to your question, I think it just varies, and it depends of person to person. So what Kallis didn't do then was, he didn't come and say, "Listen, do this because otherwise you're not going to be a good cricketer." He's like, "Listen, I think you must do this. It's your call." I've scored 12,000. He didn't say that,
but he doesn't have to.
He doesn't have to say that. It wasn't an overpowering thing. It wasn't a ultimatum, and that's probably it. That made me feel like, geez, I can trust this info.
Yeah.
Because he's not undervaluing my part in it. He's saying, like, I think there's a better way for you to do it. Yeah.
What I found is that it's the trust, going back to trust again. If a coach hasn't got the record, but then he's super organized, he's the training sessions well laid out, the communication is great, he's taking time and care, and like his actions are showing that he loves coaching, he wants to explore, and he wants you to be better, then that helps to build that trust, to then go, look, I've seen this, should we try that? And then you go, I feel like he wants the best for me, so let's try it. I feel like we can explore that. And I think someone said that it was Ryan Cook, who you guys both know, the Netherlands coach. He said, he's seen some of the best in the world come in and within a couple of weeks completely lose their respect or their what they've done in their careers, because they're not coaching, they're not building a relationship, they're relying on their career and what they did to think that's going to be good enough in a coaching sense. But it's playing and coaching is a completely different beast.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's one of those things. Dwaine, have you?
Yeah, I just think the biggest thing there that is very important to understand is that for a coach that didn't play, he's going to need time. He's going to need time to earn that trust. So Rassie didn't meet Justin at a T20 league. He had 2 weeks with him and he turned out to be the best batting coach. Batting coach. He had time. There was time to work with him. It was a time for him to look at Rassie. So in these things, there's so much the time is so short. So if you see something you want to say, and you're probably going to say it differently than when you have 2 years to work with a player. If you've got 2 years as a coach and you don't have any history, you don't have the respect yet, you're going to have to earn it, and that's unfortunately going to take time. Like Ryan is the perfect example. I remember I think Ryan started maybe at the International Academy in South Africa, and it's taken him time to get where he is now. Okay, but the way he's carrying himself, the energy he brings to every training session, the buy-in you feel as a player when he's around in the environment, that automatically builds that trust. Like AD Burrell is probably one of the best coaches I know. But it's all about like building the trust, having the time, the way you treat the guys, being relaxed under pressure. So for me, the biggest thing is, if there's people that want to be coaches, understand it's going to take you more time than a Jacque Kallis to get an IPL gig, if you're ever going to get an IPL gig. And so sometimes it's got nothing to do with the coach personally, it's just the brand. Like IPL is all about money and value and making sure that the brand becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. And unfortunately for coaches trying to get in there, it's going to be really hard. It's going to be really tough, just like it is for a good player, not an average player, but a good, very decent player to get into the IPL. It's tough to get in there, but when you get in there, you've really earned it. And they want brands involved with their stuff. So Justin Simons is definitely one of the best batting coaches that I worked with, but just knowing his story, he took it the long way. Took his time, build relationships with Rassie, build relationships with Temba, build relationships with other players, and then those players' references of his coaching style got him to where those places. So you're going to have to need those players to stand up and say, this is the guy. For Justin's career, it was amazing because Rassie was at that stage quite a senior player in the squad. Temba was a senior player in the squad. When they asked me as a reference, I played a few seasons already for South Africa, so automatically the impact a coach leaves on the players that he works with, that is his word of mouth per se. Like that will get him into gigs. When anyone asks Rassie about Justin, he'll say he's one of the best. Okay, but if it wasn't for Rassie or Temba, he probably doesn't get the job. So you need people to stand up for you, and then that's really important. And for any player that's watching, and whenever people ask you about a coach or a player, like be the guy that says, yeah, shucks, I back this guy. Don't be just worrying about your own careers, because those little doors you open for other players are super important, and you don't know which door someone else opened for you that you didn't even know of at all.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's really important.
No, that's cool. No, and thanks for sharing that. We could probably go on for a long time. It's already been, I don't know how long it's been, and I've got to go to the Niagara Falls today, which is going to be great. You guys have got an outlet mall to go to, and to get some more kit, more Puma kit, more Under Armour probably. Let's just finish off with your best cricketing experience.
I think we've been lucky to have many good cricketing experiences.
First one that comes to mind that you were like, you look back so far in your career and go, that was an amazing moment or period.
I think I'm going to name two. The first one is we had a league in South Africa, Mzansi Super League, the first year where Dwaine and I was in the same team actually, and we just had a really good team in terms of the players, the personalities. We lost like our first 3 games or something, and we had a really good team. Rabada, we had Simon Harmer, we had Dane Villas was our captain. Rickleton was there. We had a really good team. Riza was there. And we just from that loss, it was like a thing of now, okay, you've poked the bear type of thing. And those next 3 weeks was just a whirlwind. We end up winning the tournament. And in terms of a team and our team like gels and fights together type of thing, that was probably good. And secondly, probably 2023 World Cup last year, ODI World Cup, where we had a really good thing going. Unfortunately lost a close game against Australia in the semi, but
and another game, I think he lost.
Yeah, we did
as well to the Netherlands cricket team and Darmashella. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, we had a bit of a stumble there, but it ended up all good.
Yeah,
but that was a really full 2 months. Where we played really well. It just you don't win the World Cup, but you're really proud of how you went about it.
Dwaine?
Yeah, probably when you win a trophy or whatever it is, I think it's probably the best feelings. But for me, something that stands out and was really early in my career, it's when we played for the Lions. I think 2013 or 2012. I can't remember which year, but for some way we just made it to the that time, I think it's Champions League or trophy. I can't remember.
Champions
League. We made it to the Champions League final. And that was like one of the highlights of my career. Just like the energy the guys were like experiencing, the excitement, just like this unknown team from South Africa with quite a young squad.
So that was before leagues, actually. It was just IPL back then.
Just IPL. And it was so cool. Just like the energy, the vibe, everything in the team was really, really awesome. And then, my stint with Guyana last year was really, really cool. Just the way the team gelled, the team came together, just the guys that love the game, that's passionate about the game, and the crowd. That was really, really a great experience. I really enjoyed those 2 parts of my career. And then obviously making your test debut and your one-day debut and then your World Cup debuts. Those things are things that really, really stick with you for a very long time. Playing my first IPL match, it's an unbelievable experience, like in front of full crowds, serious pressure. And at the end of the day, it's just a cricket game. So you like realize, and you're like, yeah, man, doesn't matter how much pressure there is, I still need to get the ball in the right spot. And at the end of the day, hopefully it works out. So yeah, no, it's been a great journey. Even like the 2021 World Cup where we beat England and we had one stumbling block, and that was Australia in one game that cost us going through on net run rate. That was one of the lowest points, because I really felt after that game against England, I think Russ scored like a 90 or whatever. I really thought that if we could get through there, we had a huge chance of winning that one as well.
And we lost that game against Australia. It was It was our first game. We lost it on the second last ball. It was like a really tight
120.
126 they were chasing or something. And then that loss was enough for us not to go through.
That's obviously the toughest thing. But also, like, we always talk about the high points, but the low points are shocking as well. Like me breaking my thumb, and Rassie also broke his finger, missing out on the T20 World Cup in Australia. And at that stage, I already made up my mind that, you know what, the World Cup will be my final games for South Africa. Breaking my thumb, not knowing that, oh my word, my international career is done. That was probably the lowest point because you like, it's just go. And also that team in that moment in Australian conditions, you like think to yourself, you know what, those suit me really well. So super excited to go there with the same team we just missed out on the playoffs with. Really thought that we had a great go or chance of winning it. And yeah, unfortunately those also happened. So
you guys spoiled it, didn't you?
We did. We bet. Oh, we beat you guys. We bet South Africa At Adelaide. What is going on? We had you 12 for 4 the other day, and then things happen. But no, it's great. No, thank you guys. I think the bar is about to open.
Already,
and VJ's got to go. He's got a date this afternoon, so he's been looking at me throughout this whole podcast. Dwaine, thanks. I called you in the last minute.
No worries.
You're more than happy to come. Thank you so much for going on. Rassie, I finally got you on this podcast after he was the number one fan for
since the start.
Since the start, he's been the number one like in every post. Yeah. But we did it. We're here. Fantastic. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.